is the Vintage RPG Podcast, your source for the best in classic and contemporary RPGs. With your hosts, Hambone and Stu.
Welcome to the Vintage RPG Podcast, coming at you again from the clubhouse, hidden somewhere in the swamps of New Jersey. I'm John Hambone McGuire, and I'm flying solo today. Stu is in the very last stages of getting ready to launch his book on October 10th, Monsters, Aliens, and Holes in the Ground. So you definitely want to check that out. If you haven't pre-ordered it yet, there's still time to pre-order it from your local bookstore, Barnes & Nobles, or bookstore.com. So today, instead of just rambling endlessly by myself, I got Charlie Menzies here from Parable Games to talk about something pretty new and interesting they have coming out, which is launching October 3rd on Kickstarter. Charlie, thanks for joining us.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So why don't you tell our audience who you are and what you do over at Parable Games?
Absolutely. So I'm Charlie Menzies. I'm one of the creative directors over at Parable Games. We're a small company, so I tend to wear various hats, including kind of writing, design, bit of layout, graphics, advertising. I think a lot of indie creators will definitely know kind of what it's like, kind of spinning those multiple plates. But yeah, and what I'm here to kind of talk about today is our brand new game that's coming out, which is called Don't Play This Game, which is a solo RPG of found footage horror. That'll be coming out October 3rd, which I am doing the design for, writing, layout and art with my brother and business partner Barney. He's doing a part of the writing and editing as well, and working on it with me as well, because we have both deep love of found footage horror movies that we watched growing up together.
So this is interesting, because this is a bit of a departure from what you are already best known for, which is Shiver.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a step away from what we've been doing before. We've been really enjoying Shiver, and we're kind of on like our third, second kind of like major expansion, like just about to kind of come out early next year. But I had started kind of experimenting with some kind of other formats, playing kind of with other game types, because there was something I felt was missing when I started getting into solo role-playing games. Me and Barney grew up on like fighting fantasy books, and it was something that we really enjoyed. And it was like really cool seeing the like heavy resurgence of like solo RPGs during the pandemic. And it's something that I found myself kind of getting into as well. And obviously being a big horror nut, one of the things that I wanted from a solo RPG experience was that experience of kind of like sitting down and basically scaring yourself senseless. And that's kind of what I wasn't finding kind of in like a solo atmosphere. Like the kind of journaling scene was very like kind of quite calming, quite soothing, which was really nice. But I kind of was wondering, why isn't there anything that kind of sits almost on the complete opposite end of the spectrum for solo RPGs? So started kind of having a bit of a play around. I'd say it's a step away in terms of our format, but it still definitely echoes that love for horror, although like a very specific corner. For me, the idea for Don't Play This Game actually came from, did you ever get like a chain letter or like a chain email?
Oh god,
where it was like, if you don't pass this on in 7-10 days, something terrible is going to happen.
I'm 44, and in the US, you know, you are in the UK, correct?
Yes, yes we are.
So in the US, in like the, I don't know, mid to late 80s, early 90s, it was like you would just open your mail one day and there'd be like a chain letter in there, and like you know, someone would pass it to you in school, and you're like, what the hell am I supposed, if you don't like, you know, tell like 10 girls you like them, then like, you know, tragedy will befall you. And it's like, you know, random stuff. So yeah, that's kind of what intrigued me about this game, because it was something that, you know, again, I had not seen before. I'm familiar with your work on Shiver, which is more of a, and I don't want to say necessarily traditional style of horror adventure, but comparatively so it is, because this is something where, like a great book that'll make you kind of nervous to turn the lights out at night, this is a similar thing, except you have a little more control over what happens in the adventure.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's that kind of feeling of when you've told like your friends like a ghost story or something around a campfire or like a sleepover. I mean, a lot of these things like seem to be coming from like when I was in my early teens, hence the chain letter. For me, it was chain emails. Like this is where the idea came from, because I was reminiscing with some school friends a kind of short while ago, and that's where the kind of lightning bolt kind of struck of what if there was some kind of truth to those kind of chain letters, but instead of it being like a person behind it, that the actual process of that chain letter going from person to person was a thing, something that I ended up calling an entity that wanted to latch itself onto somebody and make bad things happen and make them write about them, make them record them in order to feed, in order to stay alive. And then once it was kind of done with that person, kind of win or lose, it would then move on to the next person and would be passed on and would keep going forever and ever and ever. And it's kind of this idea, the idea of an entity being like as much as an idea as well as a kind of actual physical manifestation of a thing as well, which was something that really, really interested me. But yes, no, this is very much the whole objective of this is that I want to inspire people to create stuff that is going to spook them out, that is going to make them kind of be scared about turning their lights out at night. And as you kind of say with like Shiver, I'd say Shiver is very much a like a quite a universal toolkit for all corners of horror, with a kind of like sprinkling of like B-movie flair and camp and fun to it. Don't Play This Game isn't that. It's very much the found footage, grimy kind of spooky story you found on like the forum of like a distant forum of the internet, or something that was whispered on the playground, the thing that lurks inside the abandoned house in like pretty much every town, that someone has a story about an abandoned house where something bad has happened, or a certain figure or person that should be avoided, a local boogeyman. It's that kind of feeling, that kind of edge and rust and decay on like kind of the edges of society that kind of can creep into people's lives in certain spooky ways. And that's the kind of energy that we wanted to capture in terms of kind of film references and things. There is very much stuff like the Blair Witch Project, like Wreck. More recently, which was something that came out whilst we were developing the book, was Incantation, which a fantastic Taiwanese film, if people haven't seen it, that very much captured that kind of energy as well, like elements of Paranormal Activity, this kind of gritty, grimy, what I would call an analog fuzz over everything. Kind of a very strange but uncomfortable, basically an uncomfortable form of nostalgia is what I was looking for, because part of me is very just kind of like, we're so deeply entrenched in nostalgia right now, remaking kind of things that we love, rehashing them, reformatting them, repackaging them. And it's kind of, with this is very much me having a nostalgia for my kind of teenage years in like the late 90s, early 2000s, of those days where, you know, you'd follow the abandoned railway track and see what was there. You know, the decaying factory building like just outside of town. I grew up in the Midlands, so there's a kind of a lot of like industrial decay kind of around here, and that definitely kind of factored in to this kind of slight urban exploration element that's kind of in there as well. But yeah, that's very much like the tone of the game. But in terms of what it is, it's an entity is attached to your character's life, who you've made, and it's going to make bad stuff happen to you. And this can be a variety of like, you know, creepy dogs barking at night, like, and not leaving your house alone, strange graffiti, things being left on your doorstep, an odd letter, a stranger paying you a visit. There's a huge variety of events and things that could happen that this entity can kind of make happen to you. And part of the agreement, part of playing this game, is that you have to record it in some way. Otherwise, it will make something even worse happen to you. So something truly, truly terrible. And this is kind of when we decided to diverge from quite a lot of other solo RPGs, is journaling, kind of like physical, like written journaling tends to be the foundation stone of solo RPGs. And I think it will kind of always remain that way, of that, like, it is the kind of lowest barrier to entry, I think, for people kind of getting into solo RPGs. It's very much like you need like a pad of paper and a pen, and that's all you need. And maybe some dice or a pack of cards, depending on what game that you're playing. with us, what we're trying to encourage with this is kind of a multimedia approach that kind of very much harkens to the found footage style that we're going for. So journaling is absolutely fine. Like that will kind of can be that foundation block. But sometimes we will, in the book, say, put this book down, go outside, find an abandoned building, take a photo of it. And then that winds into the story. Or you've seen a face at the window every night for the past 3 days. What does it look like? Draw it. So what that starts to do as these events spiral away from written responses to encouraging you to engage in like a visual or different medium, you kind of get away from having like a scary, spooky journal to having this haunting mishmash scrapbook that starts to build up as you play the game.
You know, I think it's really interesting that you say that. You said a lot of things that have perked my ears, and we're talking about a manifestation in the game, but you're manifesting this as the player in your own life. You know, and the multimedia aspect of it is something that I really enjoyed when I was reading through the demo, which is absolutely available now. We'll let you know where to find it, and I highly recommend it because you talk about using like a pen and a pad, you talk about using a word processor, whatever it is to put this down. Like, you know, I don't know if you were on the TikTok. However, there are people who like will tell ghost stories and they'll tell spooky stories and they'll talk about like spooky experiences. Like you could actually play through this game, and in your medium of writing it down could be you just, you know, talking through it on your TikTok and be like, I got this thing in the mail today. I found this picture and whatever. Like you were more than just giving people a avenue to play a game and enjoy a solo play adventure. You're actually giving anybody who picks this up prompts to write their own story and essentially write their own adventure. Like you can create your own multimedia experience from everything that you see. This is a roadmap. And I think that's something that's very cool. And to me sets it apart away from your standard solo play adventure, because it does become interactive into your own day-to-day life. And if you're really committing to this, you know, I'm gonna just bounce through a couple things of the demo that I thought were interesting. Like you pick a friend in event 5 and they're going through something and you flip a coin to see if they live or die or not, and that informs the rest of the story. I mean, one of the things that I appreciated most about this is that it reads like several different things. There is a dice mechanic in here, obviously, and it goes from, you know, the typical experience of a found footage thing, which is kind of slow burn, builds up to events happening and things starting to get weird and very uncomfortable, because there's some things in here that will make you very uncomfortable. And then it ramps up for the big finish, and there is a dice roll quick play mechanic at the end that like really, this is the go home of this adventure, and it may not go your way. And I think that is something that is very well dialed in to the experience of, you know, found footage horror that, you know, a lot of people I don't think really know how to walk that fine line. So bravo on that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, it's just response to a couple of things you said that. It's funny you mentioned TikTok, because when we've kind of been seeing what people have been doing with the demo, my brother told me that there is someone apparently on TikTok who is doing exactly what you've just said. With just the demo already, and we've set up our Discord as well, and there's someone doing audio logs where they're just with like a couple of still images to represent kind of what they're doing in stock photos, but they're recording themselves kind of speaking as a way of like using it as like a spoken word piece, and people writing stuff down, drawing. It's already like kind of just from the demo, we're kind of starting to see the potential of kind of what communities can do with something like this, which is, like you say, it's very much what I'm very big on. It's something I was very big on with Shiver, and I am with this, is that a lot of the games and design space where I like to sit is providing tools that enable people to tell stories, because fundamentally what I want to see is the stories in this genre, this medium, that are in people's heads. And this was kind of an extra step by opening it up in terms of the kind of mediums that you could actually tell a story in, and just being like, go nuts. And also will provide prompts to encourage you to try other mediums, even if you're bad at drawing, like draw a spooky stick man, like some of the scariest drawings in horror films are not good ones.
No.
Is what I would say. Quite often, actually, the simplistic nature of them makes them so much scarier.
Yeah, because they're raw and they're visceral. When you see something like that, it's like, oh, this kid doesn't have like $100,000 in student loan debt, and this is a marvelous piece of artwork that came through them. It's like, no, this is the best they can muster, and it's not even them; it's the entity. So cool.
But yeah, no, I think it's what you're kind of saying about the ending there of that like real danger of like life and death, and the story really coming to what I would say like a negative end, like a real downer of an end. It's something I was very, very keen on in terms of like getting that structural element of like found footage across. So in the demo, to explain, it's an interconnected series of 10 prompts that you play in a linear fashion. When you get the book works slightly differently, of that you're getting prompted to roll and move between different events. So like kind of any good like journaling solo RPG, the experience that you have will never be the same twice. Like it's pretty much near statistically impossible. If your character lives or your character dies, the beauty of this game that we're finding is that what you do at the end is you can take your record and you can pass it on and you curse somebody else. And that can be a character you play, and you can carry on your own story in a different way, do your own sequel, your own little found footage series, or you can pass it to someone who owns the rule book to say, I'd compete one and go, here you go, John. Here is my record. You are now cursed. Then you could read through my record, roll for your starting event, and then take inspiration, details, and elements from my record and start telling your own story with spiderweb connections to another story. And then once you're done, you can then pass it on and curse another person, and then another, and another, and another. And then it becomes this great spiderweb of interconnecting stories. What we're hoping now is all told in different mediums. So all of a sudden we have this network of interconnected, creepy mediums of storytelling that is trying to figure out a way to defeat a horrible creeping entity that's insidious in its nature, invading people's lives. But the sharp and depressing irony of it is that actually through the recording of their interactions with the entity, that's what's keeping it alive. So it will kind of always keep on going, and the game will always keep on playing, but never should that stop people trying to defeat the entity.
Well, very cool. I mean, this sounds pretty amazing. I feel like you got it all dialed in nice, and I'm excited for it. You know, when Barney reached out to me to chat about this, I was like, yeah, hell yeah, because I really appreciate the work you've already done with Shiver, and I'm a horror guy. I love horror. I love it. Obviously, you know, the listeners at home can't see my apartment, but you can, and you see
Yes.
I'm a huge horror fan, and you know, when I got the demo for this, I was like, well, this is something special. This is something that's, you know, exactly like you say it is. And it's something that, and obviously we want you all to buy this. Don't get me wrong. People have to buy this in order to be able to pass it on. So October 3rd on Kickstarter is a great way to start this spider web and to curse your friends and to get it on down the line. But you know, this is cool. This is unique, and this is the kind of thing that I love most about the indie RPG scene, is that we do get stuff like this, which is, you know, I was talking to Gem Room Games the other day about Duck Borg, and talking about, like, you know, everyone loves vanilla ice cream, but you know, this is more, you know, chocolate chip mint or some other kind of cool vibe and flavor that, you know, it may not be for everybody, but man, the people who get it are going to get it good, and they're going to love it, and they're going to pass it on. And
not everyone loves pistachio flavor, but the people who do, my God, they do love it.
Coffee ice cream, man. I get you. I get you. Yeah. So this is pretty cool. Do you have any final thoughts on it before we go home on this episode?
I'd say in terms of kind of things to kind of check out, and kind of be aware of, we've been very upfront of putting the safety tools at the front of our kind of like book, because we're very aware of like how immersive these kind of games are, especially in like a solo capacity. And if anyone is kind of out there playing, please read them. You know, don't go do dangerous stuff by yourselves. Like read those. And the thing we have there is that part of the book is the only part of the book that we write neutrally. In terms of, you will have seen this in the demo, John, of that the safety tools are written as you would kind of expect in a rule book, but from there on in, we want you to be immersed, and the rule set is presented to you as it is a character who has already been cursed and lived through it with the entity pitching in as well. So if you go jump on that demo and give it a whirl, you may find that it's a very different rule book to one you've encountered before, as someone is going to try and help you survive this experience. And it's very unclear whether they did or not. So enjoy.
Well, very cool. This is something pretty cool. Charlie, it's been great chatting with you. Thank you for stopping by the show. So Don't Play This Game, October 3rd on Kickstarter. How many days are you going for?
The full month. So we'll be going October 3rd all the way through into November.
All right, so great. Just in time for spooky season. Don't Play This Game on Kickstarter. You'll find the demo to the game if you want to check it out. Try before you buy in the links for this episode. In the meantime, this has been another amazing episode of the Vintage RPG Podcast. I'm going to tell you for Stu, Monsters, Aliens, and Holes in the Ground, a guide to tabletop role-playing games from D&D to Mothership. It's coming out extremely soon, October the 10th. You still got time to pre-order it. Bookstore.com, BarnesandNobles.com, your friendly local bookstore. Let's bring Stu back to the show, feeling great. Let's get some people buying this book. Monsters, Aliens, Holes in the Ground, a guide to tabletop role-playing games from D&D to Mothership. Out in bookstores everywhere, October 10th. If you want to get in on the action, my next Kickstarter is coming Friday, October 13th for The Hotel Exorcist. Sometimes calling Ghostbusters just isn't enough. So The Hotel Exorcist, Friday, October 13th on Kickstarter. You can learn more anywhere that I'm on social media, where I'm at John McGuire RPG. And Charlie, where can they find you on social media?
So you can find all the Parable stuff on Twitter or X or whatever it is now, at Games Parable. You can find us at Shiver RPG. We'll be posting about Don't Play This Game, and Don't Play This Game also has its own page on Facebook. If you would like to see what some of the community is doing for Don't Play This Game, if you pop along to Discord and search Don't Share This Server, you will find the Don't Play This Game community that is burgeoning, and that will be all over our socials and stuff, so you can jump on there and join and start contributing to that spooky spider web.
Very cool. Well, clearly this episode is all about trying to get you to spend your money. Don't Play This Game, October 3rd. Monsters, Aliens, and Holes in the Ground, October 10th. Hotel Exorcist, live on Kickstarter, Friday, October 13th. If you like the show, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Your reviews really do help other listeners to find us. And if you really like the show, why not become a patron? Patreon.com/VintageRPG. We got a behind-the-scenes look at Stu's book, Monsters, Aliens, Holes in the Ground. We got a behind-the-scenes look at 3-2-1 Action. We have a killer Discord community that we'd love for you to be a part of. At the $3 tier, I run games every month for the patrons. Stu, at the $10 tier, runs an ongoing West Marches campaign. And you get early release episodes for as little as $1 a month. We drop them at some point on Friday. Depending on when Stu and I record them, we send them over to Alex. Alex does a great job, makes everyone sound good. And then you get it at some point on Friday. Patreon.com/VintageRPG. So for Stu Horvath, I'm John Hambone McGuire. May the dice always roll in your favor.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Every review helps other listeners to find us. The Vintage RPG Podcast is a ham-fisted production. Music by Dega West. Art by Schaefer Brown. If you like the podcast, you should also consider becoming a patron at patreon.com.